Welcome to our kitchen. Today we prepare medieval vermicelli, delicious and with a complex flavor, quite different from the kinds of pasta we make today in Italy. We start with ingredients. We need durum wheat flour, 1 egg white, almonds, white cane sugar, and the spices, saffron, cloves, and cinnamon. First, we prepare the vermicelli. We need the flour with salt, 1 egg white, and warm water. This kind of preparation is called by the author tria di vermicelli. Both the words tria and vermicelli need an explanation, because they are two kinds of pasta. In the manuscript conventionally called Anonimo Fiorentino, written in the 14th century, the author writes to use vermicelli and prepare them as they were tria. To make vermicelli, we use the directions provided by Maestro Martino at the end of the 15th century, because the author of this recipe gives it for granted. Tria is a kind of pasta that appears in ancient Greek texts, in which it is spelled Itria. According to Galen, there are two kinds of Itria, one of which is Lagana, and this is particularly interesting because it seems that Itria is a general term, similar to our pasta. It seems confirmed by Hesychius, who associates the words Itria and capirode, a dry pasta, which is the equivalent to Latin tracta, a dish we prepared a few months ago. Athenaeus writes that Itria are used with milk and honey to prepare libum, a cheesecake quite different from the one we prepared from Cato's recipe. However, tria and chickpeas, called tria e ciceri, is still a traditional dish in Salento. To make this plate, half pasta is boiled and half fried. The recipe recalls the Lagana and chickpea soup from the dinner described by Horace. You find the link to the videos of libum, ancient Roman tracta, and chickpea and Lagana soup in the description below. Now we shape the vermicelli. This kind of dry pasta was bought already prepared. In the few recipes that we find in the cookbooks, we find just the method to cook it and not how to make from scratch the pasta. Maestro Martino's recipe recommends drying the pasta before the use, but now we are making it fresh. The author writes that we have to take beautiful flour, which means superfine wheat flour, and knead it with egg white and rose water or common water. For 2 plates of pasta, there is no need to use more than 1 or 2 egg whites. It is important to make a hard dough. Then the author describes the shape. Vermicelli means literally little worms. Once dried, Maestro Martino assures this kind of pasta keeps itself for 1 or 2 years. It may be cooked with meat or chicken broth and served with grated cheese and spices. As an alternative in the lean days, the broth is substituted with almond milk and sugar, as we are doing today, or with goat milk. Except when they are cooked in goat milk, the vermicelli must be colored with saffron. While the vermicelli rest, we prepare the almond milk. We grind in the mortar the peeled almonds, then dilute the paste with water and strain the almond milk. Almond milk is the typical substitute for milk during the lean days and appears in many medieval recipes. It is commonly used to cook cereals, for example rice or pasta. In this case, the author provides the ratio of the ingredients. We reduced the quantity of sugar, and even in this way the dish resulted quite sweet. We suggest following your taste, as the medieval authors recommend frequently. The ratio is 2 parts of almonds, 1 of vermicelli, and 1 of sugar. We cooked 150 grams of vermicelli with the milk obtained from 300 grams of almonds, and we added about 80 grams of sugar. We cook the vermicelli in a little water, slightly salted. Maestro Martino suggests a very long cooking time, 1 hour, with the recommendation of boiling the vermicelli in water, then add the milk. The cooking time is strange, but we notice that the vermicelli remain al dente even after 20 minutes of cooking. And we are using fresh vermicelli, while Maestro Martino uses them dry. The use of egg white is fundamental to make a very hard dough. And if you make a very hard dough, it is possible to cook the pasta even more. In any case, we invite you to experiment different ways to make this plate than we did, following your taste. In the meantime, we soak the saffron in warm water and grind the sugar and the spices separately. The author doesn't specify which kind of spices we have to use. We chose cloves and cinnamon, considered sweet spices, a perfect pairing with this dish. Also, grains of paradise, ginger, nutmeg and black pepper are a good choice. Sugar was very common in the Middle Ages. It was used sometimes just as a spice, other times as a sweetener in the same way we do today. Ancient authors mention it using a name derived from Sanskrit, saccharon, spelled in various ways. But the common sweetener among the ancient Mediterranean populations is honey. Honey is still used in the Middle Ages, but there is clearly a tendency to use mainly sugar, for both culinary and medicinal purposes. Cane sugar was imported from eastern countries, and was white or brown, with more or less impurities. It was usually sold in pieces, and the white one was considered the most suitable for the richest tables. After about 10 minutes, we add almond milk, sugar and saffron. We let the vermicelli cook for 10 minutes or more, until the cooking liquid is well reduced. The cooking time can change considerably, depending on how hard the dough is and how much egg white you used. The more egg white you use in relation to the amount of water and flour, the more the vermicelli will be al dente, even with a really long cooking. We plate and serve the vermicelli warm or cold, dusting with ground spices. The flavor of this plate is surprisingly layered. The cloves and cinnamon sprinkled on top give aromatic complexity to the dish, in contrast with the sweetness of sugar and saffron. The vermicelli have completely absorbed the aromas, in particular the flavor of saffron, becoming sweet and slightly spicy. Once cooled down, their flavor becomes more balanced, less sweet and spicy, but the predominant aroma remains saffron. This aromatic and delicious sweet vermicelli is a perfect example of a different way to experience the long historical tradition of making pasta, with a plate suitable for the richest medieval tables, and yet simple to prepare. If you're interested in ancient foods and flavors, or you're just looking for unusual and delicious recipes, please subscribe our channel.